So
Okay.
I missed an important part there.
The only other thing I would say is I usually start. So if you look in the brands tab, there
Okay.
under video clips, I usually do a countdown.
Right.
I mean, we're live now, but
Right.
okay. I'm gonna go do stuff. You have.
Hello, Mark.
Hey, Richard. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Good. How are you?
Can you hear me?
me? I can. Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me?
Huh, why can't I hear this stream? Clearly can't hear this stream. Something happened to my computer.
Oh, okay. So it's not me. Okay. I think.
Weird.
If you're watching and you can't hear me, type
I
in
can't
the
hear anything.
chat.
I can hear me on the video. I
Okay.
checked.
Cool.
Give me a sec.
Okay.
Maybe
It's
there's
all
settings that are
multi-channel.
wrong.
Yes, I will, Paul. My mom's upstairs, so I can do that.
Huh.
Yes. But yes, it's good to be home. It's very Washington
No, it's still not
Christmas
working.
out here.
Let me reconnect.
I can show all
I'll
of
be
you
back.
the lovely weather here in Western Washington. It's quite Christmassy. So yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, Paul. I hope all of the preparations are going well down there. So well, here's Mark coming back in. Is it better?
Say something.
Hello, can you hear me?
Damn.
No?
Why can't I hear any? This is strange.
Hold on.
Video sound works. Just my sound here isn't working. Why is this? What is going on? Why is my browser completely broken? Oh no, not Vanderklay. I was just talking about him.
I just
He was-
I just saw Richard there all by himself.
How do you set
home for
sound in this stupid
Christmas.
thing?
Am I not
Well,
coming
you
through?
see, that's how Jacob taught me to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So, what happened,
Huh.
Paul, was the first time I did this. So the first time I did this, I was like reading a book out loud while I was like waiting for people. And what inspired that was I watched Michael Satori do one, and he had a meditation session like before everyone came on. And it was like a video he edited of you looking all psychedelic. It was very funny. So I thought doing something before to like occupy yourself would be the move, but Jacob said no, just look lonely and miserable, and that's how you.
It's a trap.
That's
Oh,
funny.
my. Well, I wasn't planning on staying and chatting. You just looked lonely and miserable, and I saw you there at your house, and so I thought, oh, he's back home for Christmas, and
Mhm.
so say Merry Christmas to your parents from me.
I will. Did you see the snow? I put on
No.
screen?
Oh, the snow's awesome. It
Hold
looked
on.
beautiful.
My window's right here. Look at all that.
Oh,
It's a lot
wow.
better.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't want to live in a place where you have to live in the snow.
My mom doesn't either, but she's still here.
Oh, that's good. There's no snow by you, is there, Mark?
Oh no, it doesn't snow down. Although it's going to get actually cold. Like they're talking next week, or I think maybe even over Christmas or something. It's going to be under 32 degrees for a
Wow.
low temperature, and it's going to be under 32 degrees for a high temperature. And I'm like, this has never happened like this before.
Wow.
15 degrees in South Carolina. This is supposed to be subtropical climate,
Yeah.
literally. It's not supposed to be that cold. That's why I'm
Yeah,
here.
yeah, it's colder than normal here too. It's like down to the 10s and 5.
Florida, Texas, everything's like really cold this week, I guess. And Sally Joe's like going, "Oh, it's negative 32 here today," and I'm like, "That's not a real temperature. You
Well,
die.
so-
All things
so-
would end if it got that cold." But no, it's
It's-
freezing over there.
I saw it was negative 51 in Billings, in Montana.
Wow.
fun.
You sure?
What?
That's cold.
That's insane.
Well, you know, Catherine lives up in northern Ontario, right?
Oh yeah.
Those poor people.
She's not that far north. I mean, isn't she only 2 hours out of Thunder Bay?
It's not as north as Ontario goes. Those provinces. I don't know who laid out those provinces, but
Yeah,
Oh,
they are
crazy.
way up there, but there's more way up there.
yeah, there's a lot of way.
Thunder Bay is just 45 minutes from the border. It's like,
Yeah,
whatever.
Thunder
It's
Bay
another
wasn't
45-minute drive. Not bad.
No, but there's also, there's International Falls, Minnesota, which often breaks records.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah, a lot of the cold actually dips down. So actually, some of Canada is warmer than most of the Midwest most of the time.
Yeah, no, that's true. All right, y'all. Well, I'll let you chat. I gotta make a video before people come in. What's the
what are you
matter,
making?
Mark?
What are you making? Give us the scoop.
I'm not sure yet. It might. I've really wanted to get at the Aaron Run Negative World stuff, and I've put that off a long time. And with the Vervaeke, Jordan B. Cooper conversation, that'll come up in early January.
Okay.
Are you going to be the referee on that?
We're going to have a Dialogos, and I'm going to be a participant.
No, you're going to have a dialectic. And if
We're gonna-
Dialogos emerges then that would
Okay.
be wonderful.
Well, we're
That's
going to
how you're
talk.
supposed to talk
I'll
about
say
it.
that. We're going to talk. I
Have
wanted
a
to talk.
conversation.
I wanted to have this conversation back when the Peugeot Jordan B. Cooper
Right.
video came out. And so that I started sending emails, and everybody sort of said yes, but that's when summer hit and
Oh,
Vervaeke
yeah.
was busy and I was busy. And so everything's kind of got put off, and then it didn't happen. And then Jordan B. Cooper reached out to me again and said, is this ever going to happen? I said, well, why don't you and I have a talk right now? Because that's what we had decided earlier, that Jordan and I were going to talk. And then at some point, it's hard for people to recognize that, John, there's a lot of people who want to talk to John Vervaeke now. And same with Peugeot. And so getting time with them is getting harder and harder. So
Well, yeah, because John did a video on Iran. Which-
yeah, I know.
What's going on here?
Well,
So-
well, I did one on Ukraine. I mean, Kara really begged, and I said, I'll tell you what, we'll do a randos conversation.
Right.
It'll be a randos conversation because I don't want to do a topical conversation so much about Ukraine. So it's absolutely okay if in the process of the randos conversation you share your perspective, because your perspective, everybody gets to have one. But so I haven't watched the Iran video yet, but I'm curious because stuff is going on in the world. I mean there are real questions as to what's going to happen with Russia. Is Putin going to stay? I don't know. Iran's been they've been uneven. Iran's got a ton of younger people. Part of what we're facing, and this does see, you got me talking, Mark, it's your fault. It's your fault. You're colonizing me. No, but the Ukraine business, there's a power to there's a very attractive quality to the West's approach to life and politics that people in Iran and people in much more repressive places in the world, it's attractive for them, but it's really a lot more complex than just freedom. So
yeah, I listened to Mearsheimer debate. I think it came out 2 weeks ago with the former Prime Minister of Norway, and that was a good debate. It's a really tricky sense-making puzzle with this geopolitics thing. So
I've also got to keep an eye on. I got someone coming to church. We're reworking on the church website, which is good because it's been neglected for a couple of years.
okay.
And I've got to keep an eye on my front porch because we got Amazon delivering Christmas presents, and we had that porch pirate incident. So my wife is like,
Wow.
So I'm like, honey, I'll keep an eye on the porch.
Oh, good. No,
the
that's
job
not,
of a husband to settle the wife down.
That's important because women are hard to settle down sometimes. They need that stability. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Iron neuroticism.
That's I've been running into that myself. Paul, you'll be happy to know I worked with my buddy Jefferson on Clubhouse just now, actually. Over the past couple of hours, we figured out church. We got it all solved. It's all wrapped up in consequences and long-term consequences and scapegoating. Good. Like he laid it all out for me. It took him a long time, but we've got it sorted now. So there you go.
When are you going to do it to show the world it works?
Yeah.
Never.
Never.
Because nobody knows me.
If you don't do it,
not popular enough yet, Paul.
Become a church planter. Plant your own church.
Oh no, you and your church planting. No, you said that before to me.
Be a real Protestant.
The first, yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, then I could be in Jacob's crosshairs. He's obviously on a crusade against y'all. So I didn't realize that until that stream he did there on Vervaeke's BS. What a disaster. But yeah, I was like, oh, he's just on a crusade against Protestants. Yeah, fair enough, I guess. But I don't want to be in his crosshairs. He's a formidable enemy. I'd rather be on his side. Sorry.
Well, what was funny about that video was that Vervaeke's BS, according to Jacob, is that Viveki doesn't say how right he is strong enough.
Yeah. He doesn't
So-
make a good enough case for himself because he wants to avoid the theological argument, which I actually think is a good idea. I think
Yes,
it was
I
a
agree.
mistake for him to engage in the theological argument to begin with. I think he should have said, I'm not a theologian, I'm not going to get into theology. I know somebody else who does that all the time.
Don't know
Yeah,
who you're
it's-
talking about.
Me, I say that constantly. I'm not a theologian. I'm going to get a theological argument. I don't have the credit. It wouldn't work, right? It wouldn't work. Like I have nothing to appeal to. I haven't read the source material, so it's not going to help.
Yeah.
Right?
I loved that chat. That was a really good live stream. And
It was
Again,
actually.
again, a lot of people will watch that live stream and hate it because of the things Jacob says. But this is all part of sort of understanding Jacob. And yeah.
Well, and seeing the influence of Father Eric, showing the advantage of hierarchy in the moment, and then hierarchy gets enacted, and not only is no one upset, but everyone's amused by enacting hierarchy in the moment and saying, "Yeah, wait a minute, this is my stream. You're all done," and then Sam flipping it, and like all the components that Peugeot talks about were right in that stream. And if you missed it because you were too busy about Jacob's ridiculous, inflammatory, over-the-top language, which can sometimes be fun, then you missed it. You missed something really special and important. It was a really good stream. You're right. It was very good in many ways. Just maybe not for the over-the-top language and aggressive crusadery approach of the whole thing. The warlike path.
Right. Well, Hezi is right that this is a brave space, and you have to be brave enough to deal with Jacob. That's just part of it.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, brave space. I like the brave space concept that Hezi came up with. I think it's really good.
All right, I really am leaving. I'm not going to get trapped by Mark. Mark, Merry Christmas. Are you going up north? Are you going to see family for Christmas?
No, I abandoned them all. I am not doing it.
Wow.
I'm not. Well, they're not going to Christmas anyway. They're living in a different world. There's still masks and crazy people up there, and I can't be stressed out by that. We had 90 days. It was all over in my state. That's the reality I'm comfortable with. I'm not going to go up there with crazy people anymore. I can't deal with it. It's expensive too. So
it's gone where I'm at in college as well. So and here in Washington, there's nothing left. So
yeah, and you too, Richard. Merry Christmas to you and to your family.
And Merry Christmas to you. I hope all of the church proceedings go well. So
all right.
Yeah. Goodbye. I love how you said understanding Jacob. That could be a book title.
Yeah, but you couldn't get at it with mere propositions. That's the well, and look, I mean, it's an interesting topic, right? Because and it's interesting. I've been revisiting some of the I was taking my own thesis a little more seriously than normal. I've been revisiting some of the science fiction I used to watch, and one of the shows is called Blake 7, which is, by the way, the best science fiction show of all time. Just in case anybody's curious. And it really is lovely. But one of the things that gets said in there is something along the lines of, I don't know why I should have to prove this to you. The fact that I'm on your side, roughly speaking, right? Or prove my loyalty, right? And that principle is important because telling somebody that you're on their side or showing your love is more important than telling them that you love them. Right? Because you can fool people with propositions. Say, I love you, and then smack them because that's how that works. Actually, right? If you've talked to battered women, that's how it works. But he says he loves me. Yeah, but you have a black eye. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Right? But it is important that we sort of understand. Jacob shows his love and his caring in spite of his inflammatory sort of warlike aspect. Against the Protestant ethos, right? And that's really important to realize. I mean, I think that's what made it, to Paul's point, a really good live stream was that on the one hand, you hear his inflammatory language and his hyperbole, and I'm a big fan of hyperbole in case anybody didn't already notice that. somehow.
Yeah.
But he's giving the topic care, and he's allowing other people in, and
Yeah.
really wrestling with the topics and giving people space so that they can show their point of view, and then he can show them, another side of their perspective that they don't have, right? And so, it really is an act of love, right? It's an act of caring and kindness, ultimately, even though it's full of conflict and fraught with danger and, really uncomfortable for people to some extent. But I mean, he made some really good points, and so did everybody else. That was the beauty of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the spirit of this little corner is that we can trust each other in all of that. So I think
Right, and it is the trust in the shared space. And I think that if you think about, I made this comment actually on Cale Zeldin's Twitter just not too long ago, a few minutes ago actually. You need a space, a common space to go with other people and commune. And it was, one of the most powerful things. I was just talking about this on Clubhouse. One of the most powerful things that that sort of gave me an appreciation for the fact that there is a value to church at all was Jonathan Peugeot about a year ago did a Q&A on the Awakening server. It's up on the Awakening from the Meaning Crisis Discord YouTube channel. So he we record those things. He did it. He was talking about practices, and because John's got the practices, and he basically said, well, practices are good and well and fine, but the reason why you go to church is because you're doing something that sometimes you don't want to do, and you go there and do it anyway with people you don't want to be around.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, you need a space to practice that, and you need a reason that's not the people and not the thing you're doing, right, in order to engage with that. But what that does is now you get a space of serious play, John would call it, although I object. I think it's just play. The serious isn't necessary. You get a space to play in the imaginal where you can do that. Like you can practice getting along with people that you don't get along with so that you can manifest something in spite of your disagreement. You get a place to practice going to do something that you don't want to do because, my God, it's Sunday and I have things to do, or I just need a break. And where's my day of rest? And I got to drive across town to get to the stupid Orthodox church and then stand up for a long time because they're crazy, right? And then I mean, it's hard. But you need a place to practice those types of hard things, and also a place to celebrate together, because we've lost the art of celebration. I mean, part of why is Twitter a dumpster fire? Why are we focused on the negative? Well, when are we going to focus on the positive together? Right? Yeah. I mean, we can kind of do it sometimes online, but really the place that you do that, the place that you practice that is the church. That's where you practice that. Yeah. And so if you don't practice celebrating with other people, especially other people who are difficult like Jacob, right, or who are disagreeable like Mark, or who or who are clueless, right, or who just can't, that person, they can't talk any philosophy with me. All they can do is talk about the weather and how cold it is and how they get along and their family and all these things I don't care about, right? It's like you need a place to practice those skills because you need those skills.
Yeah, and I think the important element is the celebration part, because you can get the other aspects elsewhere. But like you said, there isn't really a space in our culture right now where we can celebrate, as you put it, the positive, as I think Peugeot would put it, the highest thing. Right. And one thing I've been trying to puzzle out is I was working at I worked at a summer camp this summer, working with first through sixth graders, and every day we do a Bible study about 3/4 of the way through, and I really had a hard time because it was my first time this summer. I really had a hard time making that a space where we can look upwards to the sacred, right? And yeah, I guess it's a different ball game with kids, but I guess as the
Is it
meaning,
is
what's
it a
that?
different ball game or is it just a different way of playing the same ball game?
Mm. Well, yeah, I guess because well,
It's T-ball, right? It's not
right,
pro, it's not major league and it's not minor league. It's
right,
T-ball, right? And
right,
yeah, I mean, there's so many levels of playing ball. I think and we do get confused between implementation and
mm,
the game itself, right? That's why people are like, "Ooh, the government's implementation is bad. Therefore, we need no government." It's like, no, 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 no. You just need to fix the implementation. You can
right.
keep the structure. You just have to fix the structure. That's different than tearing it down and starting over.
Yeah, but I guess there is more similarity than I thought because like like what because one of the common attitudes, and you see this in the atheists, is there is no reason there is no reason to look to the sacred because it's not necessary.
Right.
And that's just evidently false because the vacuum always gets filled with some sort of truth service, whether
Yeah,
it be
exactly.
Star Wars or anti-racism. So
Yeah, and Star Wars is a celebration, right? I mean, it's one of
yeah,
the things they talk
I
about.
know,
What
like
was so special about it was being in the theater for the first time ever in a theater, and the opening scene is this space, and then this enormous ship goes over. Like so many people have this description, right? And then
yeah.
everybody's like, "Oh, right." Well, that's celebration. Yeah.
Well, and I was watching. I went on a big movie review kick. Well, and I'm still on it. Have been for the past couple months. But I watching reviews on the latest trilogy. Like you really see that because like probably 90% of the fuel for this new trilogy is the pre-existing church of Star Wars that will lap up any divine revelation that comes down from on high. Because you see they show videos of these giant conventions with thousands of people. They look like pilgrimages. They're all dressed
Mhm.
up in their costumes and stuff like that. And it's real. And it's and I was taught all about this stuff in Christian middle school about idolatry and
Mhm.
how you try and fill that void and it won't suffice. And isn't that the meaning crisis, but idolatry? So it's
Yeah.
more complicated than that, but that's
Well, I
what
mean,
it
to
is.
some extent, it's not more complicated than that, right? It's the meaning crisis is the lack of connectedness to something that transcends ourselves, and therefore we don't have a reason to transform or an ideal to transform into or towards, right? And then we can't connect with more things. Like we're just cutting off our connections. And then as entropy, because entropy, right? Then we lose connections over time because they require maintenance. And we're not making new ones unless we're, transforming in some way, right? Just the act of making new connections transforms us in some way. It makes little adjustments to us over time, but it's not a full substitute. I mean, it can last a long time. It's not a full substitute for having that larger framework, that larger container, right? That we can look towards for virtues and values, for our ideals, right? For that larger engagement. That's where it's really sort of missing the mark. That's what you need the churchiness for, right?
Yeah. So what's your church, Mark?
I don't have a church. Like I said, occasionally I go to the Orthodox church on the other side of the river there across town. But yeah, I mean I don't yeah, I don't do that. I've never done that. Like that's the thing. Like people that's actually one of the deep problems. So I have a video, it's done. It's all ready to be released. I have like 4 videos I'm ready to release. Actually, I'm gonna release one. Maybe I'll release one later today, but I don't think so. I think I'll release one tomorrow. Maybe we'll do a live navigating patterns today, if people are interested. But I have a video about it's all circling these sorts of topics, right?
Yeah.
There are a group of people that is not insignificant, right? That Jordan Peterson reached, who know nothing about church. They have not read the Bible.
Yeah.
So you can make the Tom Harland argument all day and all night long. Like, he's not wrong. But you can't just introduce somebody to the Bible, right? It's a bit like touching the Ark of the Covenant, right? They're gonna, right? So they are either not interested or afraid of it, or they don't see the value, so they're not going to engage. There's lots of reasons why this would happen. Lots. And that's the problem, is that when you're dealing with that group of people, not the people that went to the biblical lectures first, because there's a lot of them, but the closeness of the number of people by numbers that look like watch Maps of Meaning versus the biblical lecture series, it's a lot closer than you think, actually.
Yeah.
I did a quick, I didn't do a thorough like data science, which I could do because I do know this stuff, statistical analysis, but I did a quick one because you can do most of it off the top of your head. We're not talking about hundreds of data points. We're talking about three reasonable seasons of or playlists of Maps of Meaning and one biblical lecture series, which I think is only 14 or 18 episodes or something, right? Yeah. So if you look at the numbers, they're real close in terms of people that watched all of them. Yeah. Okay. They're really close. So there's some number of people that weren't traumatized Christians who just needed a materialist or secular reason to re-engage with the Bible. That's the biblical lecture series. Sure. Absolutely. Right. But there's some number of people, and I go over this in my video in the trick that Jordan Peterson played, because he's two different tricks. One for the biblical lecture series, psychological significance of the Bible. Anybody? The psychological, right? And then he segues into the mythology, right? But in Maps of Meaning, he does something completely different. But that's because it's a different audience, and that audience is not familiar with symbolism, doesn't see the value of it, doesn't know how it connects to their lives, right? And this is why I don't think Symbolic World's going to save the world either, because Symbolic World works for people who have a symbolic understanding, but it doesn't work for people who don't have that. And I don't think that understanding is as prolific as people suspect, partially because of the Tom Holland effect. They're acting out the symbolism and the patterns without being aware of it. That's how you get a bunch of religions and people going, yeah, that's a religion, that's a religion, that's a religion. Other people going, no, I just care about the climate. No, I just care about Black lives. No, I care about safety. That's not a religion. These are the things I care about. And it's like, what definition are you using again? Right. Yeah, and that's where you get the confusion from. So I'm hoping to clear some of that up. So I think that's actually really important, that we're dealing with three different groups of people, not just believers and unbelievers, which is the way the evangelicals think of the world.
Yeah. Wait, so what are the three? Because there's two with the biblical series of Maps of Meaning. So what's the third?
I think Maps of Meaning appeals to two types of people. Okay. I think that there's two classes of traumatized Christians.
Okay.
So one class of traumatized Christians got traumatized relatively late in life by some event, right? Or some set of events. And they were traumatized late enough in life that they have an underlying sense for the symbolic patterns that are played out in the Bible.
Right.
In other words, they've had some exposure. They've attended church enough, late enough in life, past the development point, right, where it matters. Okay. And so they become materialists, right? But then along comes the psychological significance of the Bible. They're like, whoa, psychology, my vaunted sciencey thing, related to this crappy book that somebody made up in the back of their whatever in the in the time of Christ, or whatever, and maybe before that, right? Yeah, these crazy Bronze Age morons, because everybody knows the later you were born, the smarter you are, right?
Yeah.
He was very much materialist, right? You got to map everything in quantity, so time becomes a measure of how smart you are somehow.
Right.
Just because it correlates to how much knowledge you have access to, which is really information, not knowledge.
Right.
Right. But ultimately, those people have a basis of symbolic understanding, appreciation, and participation. They already have it. It's already there because they developed it before they became
Right.
materialists. And now that biblical series is just taking the materialism and putting them back in a place where they can defend the thing that they have their hearts set on, which is a re-engagement with the Bible.
Right.
That's one type of traumatized Christian.
Yeah.
But I propose there's another type of traumatized Christian. And that's the type that was traumatized at a very young age. So we'll say before their teenage years, maybe they were 10 or 8 or 11 even, right? Or maybe even 12. Those people were traumatized in such a way that they didn't get the symbolic appreciation for the world. They don't understand the proper connections and they don't see the patterns.
No.
Right. And so when they hit materialism, which is, we trained materialism into people. See my video on education versus training on navigating patterns. Great YouTube channel. Those people, they hit the materialism and to them, that's all there is. I mean, they're not longing for anything in their hearts. Not in the same way. I mean, there's still a gap, obviously, right? They're still missing this rich, enchanted world, right? They don't have access to the enchanted world, even though it's there. They're living in it. They don't see it, right? They don't have eyes to see it.
Yeah.
So those people are in the same boat, like actually, as the people with no exposure.
Right.
Because most of the people with no exposure, they also don't see patterns and don't understand this crazy book written in the Bronze Age by dumb people, because of course they're dumb because they lived way back then. And it's that ridiculous way of thinking about the world that we're stuck with in materialism. But when it's the tyranny of quantity, you're stuck with all of these things. Like these things just happen to you. You just suddenly think, well, Plato must have been an idiot because he lived a long time ago. Even though no modern philosopher, as near as I can tell, has gotten past Plato. None. Zero. Zippo.
Yeah.
Don't need any of them. Throw them all out. You'll be fine. And they don't have an appreciation for that. They don't think it's possible, right? They don't think it's they don't know this. And like, fair enough. Like we've trained them that way. We've told them this is true.
Yeah. Well, and like there is a cliche in philosophy that all of philosophy is footnotes on Plato. Like that's a thing that people say. And Viveki might agree. And you can honestly view like each philosopher as a contextualization of Plato for the time they're in. Because that always is necessary, the contextualization. But Plato, pretty smart guy, as far as I can tell. And like even like Viveki talked about Meno and Meno's paradox in his response to Jordan B. Cooper. So I read that, and like seeing it implemented was so cool. And it's I remember. Yes, I remember that part of the thing, but it's like every system has to overcome that paradox of what is it? How do you say it? How do you learn things? Essentially, how do you recognize something?
Well, that's only a problem in a materialist frame, though. See and that's really the issue: is that Meno's paradox doesn't exist. It's not real.
Right. Of course.
And so that I think the thing I've been playing around with in my head recently, on and off, is this idea that those paradoxes, like Meno's paradox and Zeno's paradox, and those are probably ancient Greek teaching tools to show you the limitations of a quantity first or materialistic approach. I think Right, because Zeno's paradox in particular, the interesting thing about Zeno's paradox is that it proves that in a materialist frame, it's impossible to get anywhere.
Right.
You can't actually get any. You can move,
Yeah.
but
right.
you can't reach any possible
Any
destination.
point. Yeah.
Right, which is A, an important truth, right? If you're going after an ideal, and B, false. Because if you're not going after an ideal, and this is the irony, right? The irony is if you're not going after an ideal, it's false. If you are going after an ideal, it's true. It's like,
Right.
whoa. But you have to introduce the non-material world in order to see that.
Right. The world of ideals.
Right. So it's an attempt to break you out of the frame of materialism. That's what it is. So the paradoxes aren't meant to be, some profound statement about the nature of reality. They're meant to explain to you that reality is bigger than you think. And here's why that must be true.
Yes, I think so. No, I've always. Do you think, because Vervaeke's naturalism seems to be just that, a recognition that there are non-material, as it were.
Yes.
Okay.
But he's still a materialist. See, and this is where we get into the problem. Look, there are almost no people who believe that there are non-material things, right? Because they still believe in Descartes. I think, therefore I am. And thinking is obviously not a physical. It's a thing, but it's not a physical thing, right?
Well,
I mean, that's Descartes' justification for being.
Well, so this is where I always run into is but thinking is physical insofar as it's just electrical signals.
No, it's not
Right.
actually. Well, no, and we know that it's not.
So
I mean, this was Dr. Mondral's point in Thunder Bay was, right? They're trying to measure if somebody's alive by measuring their brain waves, and it turns out that doesn't work. And so the statement that thinking is correlated with electrochemical signals in the brain is wrong. It's just wrong. It's not. That's not correct.
So then you just you say science will figure it out eventually.
Right, you always do that. Oh yeah. Well, there's a big joke that I unleash these things on myself. I totally deserve it, right? But there's a big joke that used to go around on the Awakening server, and people still bring up. I'll be making some pretty coherent, well thought out argument, as I'm prone to do on occasion. And somebody will go, but Mark, we're just one scientific finding away from solving that problem, which is something I used to, obviously I used to do that to people all the time. I'm like, we're one scientific test away from solving consciousness. There are people that say that. There are legitimate, it's written up in science journals, actually all the time. And I'm like, you guys are all insane. But you won't know that if you're 20 years old. Right? You got to read Scientific American for decades, like I did, before you figure out, oh, these people are all full of shit. They've been saying the same garbage for. I watched a show. It was a documentary, and I forget where it was. It was probably on Amazon Prime. It's called ITER or ITER. That's what it's called. Mm-hmm. In that document, it's about fusion. It's about the cold fusion, not the cold fusion. It's about fusion technology, right?
Okay.
Fusion generators and all that. They show. And this blew my mind, right? This just blew me away, even though, I know all this stuff. But in a way, they show a commercial from, a TV commercial from, 1945 or, the early 1950s, where they say, we're 5 years away from having nuclear fusion technology. And I was just like, what? They were saying that back then? And the guys now who are building the one in France, the international fusion project over there, which, by the way, is a mess. It's one of the things they go over in the documentary. Talk about poorly managed large project. But here's the interesting thing, Richard. The people doing it now know that's not going to be online when they're alive. And so they talk about it as a cathedral that they're building for the future.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's right in the documentary. Like it's not
that's
unclear. And I was just blown away. There's the pattern of cathedral right there,
What
sitting
is
in
it
the
called?
science. It's
What-
called
I mean-
ITER, ITER. It's a documentary. I'm fairly sure it's Amazon Prime because that's usually how I see these.
Yeah,
things.
I'll probably watch that because I do have an interest in nuclear power.
Yeah, the fusion powers. But that is to say that yeah, this, we're so far away, or we've got these connections. We're just one test and we'll know, right? They did that with the Higgs boson. So the Higgs boson was unironically called the God particle until they found it, and now they're like, well, actually, this created more questions than it answered. And I'm like, really? Like every other physics finding that claimed to be the one last finding since the 1930s, probably
Right.
before, right? It's
Yeah.
over and over and over again with this ridiculous pattern of science is one test away from discovering the thing. But that's how we fool ourselves with the materialism. And then the problem is that if you look at what materialism really means, it means that your primary mover of the universe, the thing that you think causes all the things, is material in nature and not spirit. And spirit as defined wonderfully by Pastor Paul Vanderklay, because he does do an excellent job with that. I mean, he should do 20-minute videos on some of his greatest hits. They would be fantastic. And if we can just like put him in a place where there are no windows, maybe, and a list. You do a video. Here's the list of videos. Maybe we could do that. Maybe that's what we should do. We should get together a cabal of people
Right.
and a place, and we'll kidnap him
Yeah,
and
yeah.
put him
let's
in
do
that room and make him do these videos nice and tight, because he's quite capable of doing it. This is what blows me away. He's quite capable of doing it. He just needs to focus, damn it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's actually important to understand what materialism is and why it's important. And I think that the people who say, look at John Vervaeke, and they go, well, I don't know why he's not a Christian. It's like he's not making the last few connections. Yeah, he's not, because he wants to believe that material is the thing that's moving. Like, oh, it's the nature of Twitter that causes people to be the way they are on Twitter. Really, Twitter's not just a magnifier of human behavior. Really? I think it's just a magnifier of human behavior. I don't think anything about the platform of Twitter causes people to be dumpster fiery. And my evidence is, and I have a video. In fact, the next video I'm going to release is on Elon Musk and Twitter. There was a Thursday, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, I forgot, where Elon Musk let the Babylon Bee back on, and he injected joy into the platform with some of his tweets. And the whole day was awesome tweets. The whole day. It can't be the platform. It can't be. That
Right.
Your thesis is automatically wrong. Correlation doesn't equal causation, but correlation does destroy your idiotic theory. It does. Like,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
asymmetrical. It can't prove something, but it can disprove something. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it can't be Twitter, right? It's got to be the spirit. And where's the spirit coming from? Well, that's a whole can of worms and a mess that we don't need to get into. But the important part is it proves materialism is wrong. What's constraining
Right.
people and what's creating things is not the material.
But what you just said is the reason why John Vervaeke doesn't have to be a Christian. So where does the spirit come from? We don't have to
Well,
make any further claim.
he doesn't believe in spirit, quite clearly, because it doesn't fit into his model. I mean, sure, he's got a naturalistic model that includes non-physical things, but his naturalistic model is still a materialist model, because all the natural stuff. And you did this, not to impugn your honor, sir. You did this, right? You said, well, but really, we can link thoughts to chemicals in the brain. And I said, yeah, but you actually can't. We know we can't actually experimentally. Right. Like, go look at the experiments. They're old. They're from the 40s and 50s, all the way up. They can't find a correlation between thought and chemicals in the brain. They can find a correlation between thoughts and brain activity as such. But when they go looking for it, there's a famous experiment, like the first one of the early brain surgeries with somebody awake. They stimulated a section of his neurons with an exact charge, like actually exact charge. and then stimulated it again. And he had different memories with no correlation, which is a really good indication that actually you're not storing your memories in the way computers do, like in the bits, and they're on this, they're in this row of this RAM chip. It's a good indication, and it's only an indication. I'm not really making a claim here. It's a good indication that your memories are actually moving in your brain all the time. And there would be a reason for that. The reason for that, and this gets heavily into Claude Shannon information theory and all kinds of computer science that I actually am an expert in and cannot explain to you because it would take too long. If you're moving information, you can store more of it than if it's static. And people don't understand that. There's a famous story that I have about that too that was told to me by people who were there. But yeah, there's a way in which that should be the way the brain works in order to store the large volume of information that we no doubt have access to both consciously and unconsciously.
Right. But is it that's not like, okay, what word do I want to use? Like super, because Paul makes an interesting move when he dislikes the word supernatural, and rightfully so. But he has developed this idea of spirit so richly. So, like, I think he would say spirit isn't supernatural. And so what?
Well,
what
yeah, because the problem with saying supernatural is, well, I mean, there's lots of problems with it, but the biggest, to me, the biggest problem with saying supernatural is you're saying something is above nature.
Right.
And the problem that the churchy people have, especially the materialist churchy people, which may encompass all Protestants for reasons that should be obvious, is that they want the spiritual to be part of nature. And I'm not even saying that that's wrong or anything, right? I'm just saying that seems to be their attitude, is that they want that to be the case. And I think the ultimate problem with that is that it's dangerous to try and put those things together, we'll say needlessly, right? Because I think there's the material realm and the ethereal realm, and then reality is the transjective, to use John Vervaeke's term, of the two.
But they are still separate.
I know. I think they're not separate. They're interpenetrating. And like, this is we like to draw lines and things, but I don't think you can draw a line between natural, spiritual, and natural material. Like, I just don't think you can do that.
Well, yeah, and that's why I asked you, because I don't want to draw a line between them. Like, I actually think it's a better conception to have them together in one system.
And apart. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that gets you out of interactionism and that whole mess. And all sorts of other problems. So, yeah, but yeah, I guess I still don't see how that. No. Yeah, that seems right to me. Hello, Claire.
Hello. I'm just wondering what you guys were talking about. I couldn't I couldn't make out what you were talking about. So maybe you can fill me in. I know it's something about Christianity, but I couldn't make out what it was.
Well, so I guess and Mark, you can pitch in. We're talking about the necessity of the idea of spirit, of non-material entities in reality that move the material, and how how that forces you to move out of a purely materialist frame, where you only believe that material is what reality is.
Are you talking
Marcus.
about idolatry? I'm just trying to
Oh well,
understand
so
what
I
the
guess
problem is.
well, Mark, you could talk about the problem with materialism better than I can.
Oh, you
Yeah, I
mean-
think that, yeah, it's not. I mean, we weren't talking about it in terms of a problem, right? We were just sort
No.
of exploring the idea that materialism is the thought that it's not the exclusion of things that aren't material, like, you know, Vervaeke's example is E equals MC squared. Is that real? Right? Well, can I give it to you? Can I flip it over? Right? If I take it, do you not have it? Right? Of course not. So it doesn't have the properties, the physical properties, right? But it is a thing, right? It is an entity, right? It is an existent object in some sense, right? But John's problem is he is still a materialist, and he is a materialist in the way that he thinks that the material is the prime mover. It's the thing that's the most important. It's the thing that does all the constraining and all of the determining of how things unfold, right? And then, like,
well,
the Big
I
Bang
can
Theory
see
and
his
all that.
point of view. I mean, in that ideas can float around, but unless it is conceived by people or things capable, well, it would be people capable of acting on these ideas, you know, nothing would happen. I suppose that must be part of Marx's historical materialism, wouldn't you say? Because the idea was that history was a process of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, and this really involved people attaching themselves to ideas and fighting those in opposition, who held ideas in opposition to theirs. And at every stage there would be new developments and new schisms and new ideological battles, until eventually we get to a workers' paradise or something of that nature.
Right.
Is that what
yeah.
you're talking about? I'm not sure.
Well, no. I mean, look, that's just postmodern power from above narrative. That's obviously wrong, but and that is the problem: is that when you come up with a ridiculous thesis like that, that's observably false, you run into a bunch of issues. Like, you know, who actually is the smart person, right? Is it the person who comes up with the idea or not?
Claire has been told she's not allowed on my channel except when she has her video on. She is one of the Lilim on my server. She is a bad actor. I think she works for George Soros, probably, or she's insane. One of the two. And so I have work to do, but Claire's only allowed on if she turns on her camera, and do not take her seriously. She is an agent of either something like the NSA, CIA, something like that, or
Okay.
she's insane.
It sounded that way, bringing up Christianity when we weren't talking about it, and then bringing up Marx.
Well, okay, so you have to understand,
stupidity.
she hides behind the idea that she's insane. She is actually one of the smartest people I have ever encountered, and she is doing something. And the reason I have the Mendacity channel on my server is so that people can see people like Claire and Elias, who goes by Pusher on my channel, can see these types of people exist. And yesterday on Twitter, or was it the day before yesterday on Twitter, you saw that Elon Musk made public that the CIA and Central Command have these types of
operations,
accounts in which they influence social media. And Claire, I don't know who she works for. It's possible she works for MI6. It's possible she works for the NSA. It's possible she works for Mossad. It's possible she works for the Chinese. It's possible she works for herself and she's a postmodernist activist. But at best she's crazy, but crazy is the least worst thing she might be.
Yeah,
Okay,
fair
I
enough.
need to get to work.
Okay.
Have fun.
Thank you, Jacob.
Claire's only allowed when you guys actually recognize what she is, and if she has her video on, and there's a reason for that because she has a team who helps her do her work, and so it's a lot harder for her to pull her tricks when she has her video on and she's an individual person as opposed to a whole team. And have fun with Claire. Bye, people.
Wow.
Okay.
Fun.
I'll happily dismantle all Mech's philosophy easily. So whatever.
Well, here I am. I'm sorry you thought I was being irrelevant. I really couldn't make out why you were discussing metaphysics.
I wasn't discussing metaphysics. Yeah. If you thought we were discussing metaphysics, that would cause confusion. I never discuss metaphysics. I don't even believe in metaphysics. I think the term is a misunderstanding or trickery from a publisher, because that seems to be where it came from.
Okay, so you're talking about materialism. So how is that relevant, and how is that useful to to anything really, or even to Christianity, which I assume is what you're discussing?
No, we're not discussing. I wasn't discussing anything like Christianity. So I don't know how you get that impression. So we apologize for the confusion. But it is relevant in exactly the way I said. Materialists believe that the material is the primary mover of the world, irrespective of what else they believe, right? And that causes a problem because, again, that means that Twitter, the platform, is the thing that causes people to behave badly. But then when you have an incident where people aren't behaving badly on Twitter, like we have had since Elon Musk took over, that theory must be wrong. There's no other alternative unless you're not using the scientific method, which is fine, but just say you're not a scientist and I will dismiss you because you don't believe in science, right? So then that can't be it. So any materialist theory has to be incorrect, at least with respect to Twitter. You can make other arguments in other places and I'll dismantle them wherever they lay because they're all obvious, observably incorrect. So that's the problem with materialism.
I still don't see the point of this discussion, but I'm completely lost. Perhaps I should just bow out of it, since it doesn't seem to be about anything that
Well, I
means
suppose
anything to anyone, or to me anyway.
It's irrelevant insofar as if you hold the position that material is the prime mover, as Mark put it. You're apt to misdiagnose causes and constraints and problems. And whenever you misdiagnose something, that's a pretty bad thing, whether it's on a cultural level, as Mark's Twitter example is, or if it's in your family, or if it's in your workplace.
But
So
you're talking about misdiagnosing something like you're a doctor. So you're saying there's some sort of disease or something?
I'm saying there's a problem. There's always
Okay.
problems in life. There's always
Yes.
problems in life, and
Would you like to define the problem?
there is no the problem. One problem was the dysfunction that a lot of people reported Twitter was having. So that's a problem we could talk about. We could talk about a problem in any space of life.
So we're talking about Twitter censorship. Is that what I mean? What is the?
Go ahead.
No, I think. Look, we're not talking about any particular specific problem. We're talking about a class of misapprehensions of the world, right? So there are problems in the world, and if your model is a materialist model, i.e., you believe that material is the thing causing people's actions, for example, then you will misdiagnose all problems, all of them, because zero problems seem to be due to the material situation. It seems to be much more complex than that and wrapped up in a lot more things. And the prime mover seems to be spirit and not material.
Are you saying that that there's political and social problems? I mean, is that what this is really
No,
about?
I don't think they're political or social. I think that people are the way they are, and because they live in the world together with nature, which is certainly a factor, that there are problems because of that. I don't think classifying them as political or social is helpful or useful at all.
Well, you have to be more specific about the nature of the problem, and it seems
No, because we're not talking about the problem or a problem. We're not getting into specifics. We're talking.
I thought
at a
that was what
general
Richard
level.
was saying.
No, it wasn't. That was what you were saying. That wasn't.
No,
what
Well,
we
I'm
were
just trying
saying.
to pin you down about what you're talking about, but you seem to be not talking about anything.
Claire, you asked why, as Mark said, the class of misapprehensions that we were talking about was relevant, and I presented an answer as to why it is relevant. We were not talking about problems. I said that it was that the class of misapprehensions we were talking about is relevant because
A
they lead to
misapprehension about what?
about reality.
What is this misapprehension about reality?
No, there isn't one. You keep reducing this to a single instance, and we're saying
Well,
we're not
I'm
talking
trying to
about
get-
single instances.
So you want to widen this discussion and basically talk about nothing? Is that really the?
No, we're not talking about nothing. It might be something you can't comprehend, but it's certainly not.
Well, I
nothing.
certainly can't comprehend, but maybe the idea is to talk incomprehensibly.
That's
Well,
not our
I
idea. Our idea is to
comprehend.
talk about what we're talking about.
And what are you talking about?
Materialism as an issue when you use that to frame the world.
And what is wrong with materialism?
So we have to start here again. Okay. We'll
Yes,
go over it
yes,
again.
yes. Because
Yeah. Well, again, when
here's what-
you believe that the world is primarily moved by material, you come up with weird ideas about how and why the world works, and then you make predictions based on that, and they don't match what actually happens. Right? Your predictive
So
capacity
can you
goes
give an
down because of your
example of?
misapprehension. Well, I mean,
So-
we've given you several
so-
examples. How many do you?
Well, no, because you're saying the problem is materialism,
Well-
and people don't know what the. Sorry, what
No, I'm
was
saying
it?
we were discussing materialism. We weren't classifying it as
Okay,
the problem.
and the point of discussing materialism is to say there is a problem with it, or is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Is to say
well,
that there are
and-
results from it.
Well,
And
Mark-
what are the problems of this materialism?
The misapprehension of reality.
he only
And what is a reality that is being misapprehended?
That you're asking the
What?
nature of reality now?
No, I'm trying to find out why you're having this conversation. So you're saying that there's a problem with the perception of reality. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, it's saying there's
I
a
wanted to say yes, but
misapprehension
the other
if
side
you
no.
perceive from the framework of materialism. And that causes you a problem. It's not a problem in the world, but it causes the individual that's doing it a problem.
Such as?
Well, again, such as you won't understand how Twitter works because you'll believe that the platform of Twitter causes the dumpster fire that it was before Elon Musk took over. And then Elon Musk takes over and nothing changes in the platform. There's no material change at all. And yet Twitter is no longer a dumpster fire. That doesn't fit into a
Are you
materialist
saying
model
that
of the world.
you're pleased that Musk took over, or displeased?
No, I'm not saying either. I didn't make a statement about my personal preference whatsoever.
So why are we discussing Twitter?
Well, because you asked for an example, we can discuss something else, but you asked for an example. That's why. So you had a desire, right? That desire was filled, and now you're complaining about it, which, is a clever trick, but also a trick. Please continue.
No, I'm still trying to find out the point of this conversation.
No. I mean, you're clearly not doing that, which is fine. Like, I don't care. We can play this game all day. The thing is, I will outlast you. I am very good at this game. So
Yeah, but
we can do. I can do
what
this.
is the purpose of not answering questions and just?
Well, I've actually answered all your
Pretend-
questions. You are pretending as though those questions have not been answered, when in fact they
No,
have,
I see.
which is interesting.
know,
because
you did
it
answer
does
with
get
words.
to the question of motivation, because I gave you an example and then you complained about the example, which is, standard fare for
Yeah,
your
but
question.
because
Perfect.
I
But
don't see the
but
point.
to claim that I didn't answer the question is just a lie, and I would.
Well, I guess I'm
really engage in
expressing.
that.
I guess I don't see the point of your answer. I don't see the point of you and Richard sitting
Well,
there
that's
talking
I mean
about
maybe
nothing.
that's fine. Maybe you don't have the cognitive capacity to do so.
No, I
and
don't.
I'm sorry
And
to
I'm
hear
trying to
that, but I did
understand.
answer your question.
I'm just trying to understand why you're having this conversation and the purpose. I mean, usually, we are discussing a certain subject because it's a problem or there would be a purpose
Well,
to your
maybe
discussion.
that's how you discuss things, but we have a much broader realm of discussion, and maybe that's why you don't understand when you're getting an answer, because you're just not
and
cognitively
if I
capable
can,
of doing that. Fair enough.
if I can step in, if you look at the label of the video, Claire, the label is just chatting. There is no topic. There is no
There's no
predetermined.
purpose to this conversation.
So there's no purpose to chat.
Okay, I kind of see.
There's no material purpose to this conversation. That's correct.
Right, and so
Right.
we're all
There's no
wasting
material
our time.
purpose to this conversation. That's
Okay, so if there is no material purpose, what other purpose could there be?
You want a list? There's a pretty exhaustive
just
list
one.
of non-material purposes in the
Just
world.
one.
One is to
Carry on.
enjoy the company of Richard, for example. Right? Paul Vanderklay felt bad, so he thought he was doing a good in the world just by joining the stream, right? So there's two non-material purposes to this conversation.
Oh, you mean being kind and keeping each other company and just chatting?
Well,
Even
that's another three. So now we have five. I mean, the list is exhaustive, but I mean, we can add to the five we already
Discussions
have.
should
If you wish.
be purposeful and constructive rather than self-indulgent and time-wasting.
Well, if it were self-indulgent and time wasting, that would be one thing, but it doesn't seem to be either. I mean, maybe to you, but there's a problem of materialism, if there ever were a problem of materialism. So, I mean, it's great that you can come here and generate a counterexample for us to prove exactly what we're saying. I appreciate that.
Well, you're saying you were talking about nothing, and here I am trying to get
No,
you
we
guys
weren't
to
saying
talk
that.
about
No,
something.
we never said any of that. That's stuff that you said, but we didn't say that. So that's an important distinction.
Well, but it's obviously my opinion that you were talking about.
Right, it's your opinion.
I'm
right.
trying
which
to
is
make
again, that's an
conversation
important distinction. Right?
into a
You shouldn't be passing your opinion off as facts in the world, because opinions
I'm
are
just
not
saying it's a
facts.
fact that my opinion is that you were talking about nothing, and you're
It's
saying
a
you
fact
prefer
that,
to talk
that
about
your
nothing.
opinion is that. That is, yes. The
Yes,
fact of the
yes.
matter is you have bizarre opinions about things that are observably untrue. That is also
Well,
the case.
so
These are
you're
all
saying, oh,
facts.
we're talking about something, we're talking about materialism, and it's important because
Oh, we were talking
reasons.
about materialism, and we told you why it was important. You just rejected that, which is a different
I
problem.
do. I
And
just
and
don't
it's
see
not
the
our
point of it.
problem either. So I'm happy to hear we don't have a problem, but you seem to. That's fine too.
Right. I'll just see what else you're going to talk about then.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I suppose one point of interest I had, Mark, was if you could talk about
The loudness of the clattering from Mark's keyboard. We could talk about that.
we could, but I wanted to ask Mark if he had another interesting example of a we called it a misdiagnosis of a problem, because I found the Twitter one quite interesting. Or we can actually talk about the Twitter, because that was interesting. Because Elon Musk is a material person, as it were. Now, are you saying that
I don't know.
Are you saying that the spirit in Elon Musk is what moves Twitter in a better direction?
Well, worse than that, Richard. You got to see. I think it's my second video on money on my channel, right, on Navigating Patterns, right. I actually talk about why Elon Musk has so much money, right? And that's because, and how he got it so quickly, because by any standard, he acquired a huge amount of money very fast, very, very fast. And my thesis for that is something like he's selling the future, right? He's selling the future potential, which is the best representation that you can have of money. Money doesn't represent things in the here and now. It actually represents the future potential. And so when he does that, he has the most value, right? And so he's able to extract the most value from wherever he gets the value from. Like I have very big differences with Elon Musk's idea about going to Mars and what I consider, observably materially false statements about what electric cars and AI or self-driving cars are going to be able to do, right? But those are things I actually know a lot about, right? So not going to happen. But the fact is, like, he is allowing people to participate in that dream, even if it's unobtainable, right? Or at least unobtainable in the short term. And so, I do want to address Chris. Yeah, look, he got a lot of his money from government contracts, right? But the government is the zeitgeist of the people. And the people, there are a lot of people who want to live the dream of an electric car world, right? Even though there isn't enough electric generation in the United States for every single citizen of Texas to have one electric car. Like, that wouldn't work. And even if we could generate that much electricity, which we can't, we couldn't transmit that much electricity. We don't have enough transmission capacity. So that's two problems that make it, unrealistic. I mean, the number of batteries required and all that aside, it isn't particularly relevant. I'm going to count that as a win, by the way. I'm going to pat myself on the back and say, yeah, bring it. Go ahead. Familiar with this game. I'm very good at it. This game I'm not going to win. The game you're not going to win. Precision is my thing. You think scientists are precise? Yeah, they got nothing on me, B. I could do that all day long. It's way too much fun, though. I really shouldn't indulge. But it is near Christmas, so maybe that's my Christmas. Yeah, so when you look at Elon Musk and what he's done, he's able to find the zeitgeist, right? And take advantage of it to his financial advantage. And, look, I respect the guy for that, even if I reject going to Mars and electric cars and possibly tunnel boring machines, which is not going well from what I understand. I admire him for being able to know the dreams of the zeitgeist and trying to enable that to happen for people. And I think that's important, even if it's wrong. Like, even if I think he's wrong about electric cars, I think it's actually important to pursue electric cars, right? So I'm not like anti-electric cars, although I do hate Priuses. Right, but realistically, that's important. It's important that people are doing that, and so I think he's embodying the good, even if I think his specific implementation in electric cars and going to crazy Mars is bad, and I do think it's bad. Like, I think electric cars is bad on balance, but it's good that we pursue them. Like, I think that's important. Does that make sense?
Sort of. So can you link it back to why that kind of person changed Twitter?
Yeah, because he understands the zeitgeist and the spirit. And so, like I said, the next video I have coming out is about Elon Musk and Twitter, right? And one of the things that people don't understand when they're talking about Musk and, his polls and, like, a lot of people were like, well, I don't know why Elon Musk is polling to see if Trump will come back. Like, Trump's always such a lightning rod issue, right? Notice what I just said, right? What if, let's suppose Elon Musk is not retarded like most of his critics. And I do mean that technically. I mean, they're a little on the slow side, right? They're not up to speed, right? They didn't create several successful businesses, for example, right? And so, maybe you don't criticize a guy who's created several successful businesses. Like, maybe you're too dumb to do that, technically speaking, right? Just flat out measuring. Quantity, we'll use quantity, right? But let's suppose he understood a few things, right? Let's suppose he understood that if you do a lightning rod poll, you can find out a lot about the zeitgeist of the people on Twitter. And because it's a lightning rod poll, you can get free advertising for your business because it will get reported on in the news. And then people will know, oh, Twitter's still out there. B, Twitter has changed. And C, there's controversy there that that might be important to you. It doesn't matter which side of the lightning you're on in that case, that might be important to you to pay attention to. Okay, so that might be free advertising for your business at the same time. Now, let's suppose that all along you were just gonna like let everybody back on who didn't break the rules all along. But then you said, well, if I do this poll, I'm gonna get this free advertising. I'm gonna find out about the zeitgeist, the actual zeitgeist in Twitter, what people actually think. Also, I'm gonna attract a lot of bots. And in attracting a lot of bots to a particular tweet, I'm going to be able to find more bots better. And because that's part of his goal, because he thinks getting rid of bots on Twitter is a good thing, whether you think that or not, it's not relevant. That's good. It's good business, right? So now we have a bunch of reasons, right? And then another reason is, guess what else you get out of that? You also get the zeitgeist in general, because the fact that you do this poll and generates a news event tells you not only about how people feel about Donald Trump, right? Or how people feel about Twitter. It also tells you about how people feel about doing polls in Twitter, doing polls in general, and how people feel about Elon Musk not living up to his promise to just let everybody back on, right? But suppose he never changed his mind on that and he's just trolling you, because that's what he's doing. Like anybody with any business experience would have recognized this immediately. That's why when people criticize him for it, I'm like, well, they're a little stupid. I'm sorry, but they are, and I'm sorry that maybe they're smart in other areas, but they're obviously not smart in business. Anybody like myself who started several businesses, and yeah, almost all of them failed, sure, but that's like 95% of all businesses started. So anybody who knows anything about business would have recognized that trick. Like, they would know right away what he was doing and why. And look, I'm not saying I have the exhaustive list of things that you are going to accomplish by doing that, because I don't think I'm that smart either. But the fact of the matter is that he did it, and there's more than one reason behind it, and they're all good reasons. Like, this is a good idea. It's not even a good idea. It's a really good idea. It's the sort of idea that is the sort of genius that illustrates that Elon Musk is a genius who is worth every single dollar of value that he has, irrespective of how you feel about electric cars, as we know how I feel, right? Or going to Mars, which is just the dumbest thing ever, right? It doesn't matter. Like, the point is, what he did was really correct and good towards his business. And you need to be able to appreciate that. And it's hard to appreciate things like that because most people don't have the experience in business to understand what's going on.
Well, yeah, they don't see the meaning. That's part of it.
Right. Well, and now I've ruined half my Elon Musk video, but I'm going to put it out
Yeah.
anyway, probably tomorrow.
Only 13 people are watching. It's fine.
Yeah, they won't pay any attention. They probably don't even want me to do a navigating live patterns later on today. So are these people important? Are they paying attention to navigating patterns? Do they care at all? I have no idea.
How many subs are you at? I didn't check the new.
Like 439.
Really? What? Look at that. I can tell I was there in the early days before it was cool.
Yeah, the live streams are getting reasonably good viewership too, better than I thought. So that's
Are
something.
they? Oh, the navigating patterns.
The navigating live patterns, yeah. I'm thinking of doing one today, maybe tomorrow, but more likely later this evening. I don't know. I'm getting kind of tired, so it's been a rough day. It's freezing out. I had to go out, and I was like, "Oh, it's actually cold, and it's going to get really cold down here. It's never been this cold since I've been here." I'm like, "What's going on?" I brought the New England cold with me somehow. Save me.
Yeah, it's crazy how cold it is. It's insane.
It's negative 32 in Southwest South Dakota. So there you go.
All right. Well, I have some things to do. So, unless do you want to take over, Mark?
No. I've got things to do too. But I didn't want to leave you alone on a just chatting stream. I have a heart, not a pastoral heart like Pastor Paul does, of course, but I do my best, and I like talking to you. So it was really enjoyable. And And I've got an extra bonus. So really, thank you for getting Claire in here because I haven't had that much fun in a while. I used to do that all the time on the internet back in the day, in text channels and in voice chats and all kinds of things. And I really miss that because I'm really good at it and I like to win. I really like to win.
It was fun to sit back and just relax and watch you.
Good. Well, I hope you learned something about how to defeat that sort of, it's the restatement trick, right? It's like, oh, so what you're really saying, it was the thing Jordan Peterson did. It's actually one of the things I like. That's the thing that attracted me to Jordan Peterson was Kathy Newman. But I watched Kathy Newman and I said, I remember that. That's a trick. I know how to do that. And then I realized I couldn't have done that. There's no way. I was never that good at that. That was amazing. That's what got me into Peterson. Really. I mean, I saw him before that, but that's what really got me like, oh no, there's something going on here. This guy's going places. So, thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, of course. Good to talk to you as always as well.
Excellent. Have a lovely day, sir.
Yes, you too. Goodbye, YouTube.
Bye, YouTube.